Hello, hello, and welcome to the Sparkle and Thrive podcast. And today I have a very special guest for you. This is Kirsty Raper. She was a woman who came through our program a year ago, started the program with us a year ago, and her life has transformed quite dramatically in the last year. So I'm so glad you're here. Welcome, Kirsty. Thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us. We're so excited to talk to you. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Oh, it's my complete pleasure. I was just thinking it's nearly a year that I joined TechPixies. What a transformation. It's been amazing. So it's been
brilliant. That's what I want to talk about today is your transformation. So let's get some background. Tell us your story and tell us how you found yourself exploring the idea of joining TechPixies.
Yes, so my background was in PR. I worked in the city for 10 years doing financial PR, helping clients. And then I had children and went sort of part-time with them. And then my husband was killed when my daughter was 18 months old. And it made me look again at, what I was doing with my life. And I kind of wanted to change direction. So I, in fact, then went and worked for 2 different charities and did corporate fundraising for them. One was called the Teenage Cancer Trust, which was amazing, and one was the Great Ormond Street Hospital. But it was really full on and my kids were really busy. So in fact, I stopped for about 9 to 10 years just to bring up the children. But about 18 months ago was literally like, my brain is leaking out of my ears. I love my children, but I really want to go back to work. And I had done 2 big property renovations in the interim and instead of looking at magazines, I was finding that all I was using was social media, right, to get my inspiration. And I thought, wow, this is so much more influential than a newspaper or a magazine. I was getting influenced left, right, and center by all these people. And so I thought, well, Instagram, I could do that. I'm sure I could do that. So I looked around for some training and came across TechPixies and signed up with you guys. And oh my God, it was a complete revelation. I very quickly realized that social media isn't easy to start with. You really have to learn and train and understand all the different platforms. But I kind of worked out that that's what I wanted to do. And everything's unfolded since then.
And I don't want to go too deep on the loss of your husband, but with an 18-month-old, that must have been a real shock.
Yeah, it was really difficult at the time. And it made me, with hindsight, I can look back and see that the silver lining is that it's made me who I am today. Because at she was 18 months old, my whole life I had planned, changed in a second. And, it's made me much stronger, much more independent. I have a certain kind of way of looking at life, which is that you just got to go for it because life is too short, right? And I think before I was probably a bit more cautious, and now I think you've just got to go for every opportunity that comes your way. And we're quite a good team now. So my daughter is now 17 and she is completely brilliant and we're very close. And when I did TechPixies, she was along the road for the whole thing. And I can remember going to my first client meeting, which was actually I went to pitch for my first client during the TechPixies training. Oh my God, I was so nervous. And you did some brilliant, I remember I had a one-to-one session with you, Joy. You were like, you can do this. I was like, oh God, can I? And she took a photograph of me putting on a suit for the first time for 10 years as I went out. I was like, God, can I do this? Can I do this? And she said, yes, you can. And I came back. I feel a bit emotional talking about it because she just said, I'm so proud of you. This is amazing. So yeah, it's who I am. I don't know anything else now. So, but yes, it's definitely made me think you've got to grab everything while you can. So,
well, it's very interesting because I think when people have a traumatic event happen to them or they lose someone that they love, they can make that choice of, I'm gonna build on this, or I'm gonna actually be destroyed by this. And I think I look at you look at a lot of people who are successful and they are not adverse to overcoming really tough things in their life. And I think it's something that people obviously when you're going through something really hard, you don't think that way. you gotta survive the hard thing first. But it's the way that it changes you. And I love what you just said about how your daughter supported you through TechPixies and for that first job.
Yeah.
And I remember that conversation with you because you wanted me to look at your proposal, which your proposal was unbelievably beautiful. And it was like, this woman is going to be so successful. I just knew from looking at the proposal that you were going to be fine. Let's talk about two things there. One is when you decided after 10 years that it was time that you needed to go and work, you went and met with a financial planner and they explained to you kind of what you needed to make in order to move yourself forward. So talk to me about that conversation and then also about the courage that you had to have to then go out and hit the targets, hit the goals, and get what you needed to get for yourself and your family.
Okay, so yes, I had a really good conversation, and I think you really need to sit down with somebody that you really trust and talk about money. So lots of us don't like talking about money, but I had the conversation. We worked out what kind of annual income I needed to survive, and I looked at full-time employment, going in-house, freelancing, all the various options. And because I've got a 10-year-old and a 17-year-old, I'm juggling that day where you work from 9 till 3 and then you're running around being a mom, and also the holidays. So to me, freelancing really was the way forward, but I didn't know if I could make enough money doing it. So this first year was a real experiment for me to work out how to do that. So when I started TechPixies, I knew that and very quickly was like, Instagram is my thing. I love Instagram. And so I worked out that I needed to niche quite quickly. And that is one of my top tips for anybody that's thinking about going into social media management, is to work out which your platform is. And for me, it's Instagram. And I niched even more. I was like, I'm kind of going deep. I really want interiors, property, gardens. That was my thing. And they work brilliantly for Instagram. That's their most normal platform. So then the process was like, well, okay, how do I do this? How do I get clients? How do I start actually making money? And during the training, an opportunity popped up with someone that I'd worked with before, who was a property building contractor. And their Instagram was really bad. And I remember just sort of out of nowhere going, should I do an audit of your Instagram for you? And I was literally like, who said that? Like, what am I doing? And then they said, yeah, great, do an audit for us. And then I remember ringing you in a complete panic going, Joy, what am I going to do? Oh my God, I've got to do this. I've got to do this now. And you were so brilliant. We had a 1-to-1 hour, and I was sitting at the other end of this sitting room. And if I look back to me now, I mean, I just didn't know what I was doing at all. And you said, just go for it. And one of the best things I think was, I thought that they know less than me. So I know more than them. So that's a good first starting point. And I said to them, I'd do an audit of their account and work with them, and said to them, look, I'm in training. I was really open about it. I said, look, I've got 10 years PR experience, but I'm training in social media management. Will you give me a go? And they went, yeah, great. So, and I knew that would be at a slightly discounted rate because I was learning, but it's the best way. So if anybody gets a chance, my best thing I ever did was just go for it. So if you know somebody or have worked, in the field, or anybody that you could offer to do an audit for, it's a really good first step.
It's really interesting though, because I think even though you did it at a reduced rate, I had to talk you up from the reduced rate.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, I think you had a lower offer, and I said, no, you don't go below a certain amount, when you're first
Totally. And what you were really good at, I think in the TechPixie stuff, there's some things about when you work out your pro rata rate, right? If you're charging whatever it is per month, pro rata that up to a year. So you work out what your annual salary is. And I think one of the things that's really hard with social media management is that it does take a lot of time and hours. And if you don't set the rate right, you're working every hour that God sends and you're not getting enough money in. So it's really, really, really important. So I did a discounted rate with them for about 4 months, and then they went, we're so happy, we want to put the fee up. So that happened really quickly.
Let me just ask you a quick question about that. When you did agree that, you agreed to come up from the rate you wanted to do, and then you kind of came to, okay, I feel comfortable with this. Did you tell them that did you say to them, this is a reduced rate for a short period of time? Did they
Yes.
know that? Yeah,
Yes,
that's important, I think.
it's really important. And they knew that I was training, and it gave me a little bit, because I think we all have imposter syndrome, right? We're training, we're learning this stuff, and is to be really, really open with people about it, that you're learning as you go. And they're really relaxed about it. I was really lucky I had a great client and they got quite good results quite quickly. So, yes, so then we revised the fee upwards. And the most important thing for me was to have that first client was, well, two things. Firstly, to learn what I was doing, because I was actually managing a client. I was learning how to, share content, how to create content, how to get engagement, all of that kind of stuff. And then they were out telling everybody how brilliant I was. So, within, 3 or 4 months, they just kept going, Kirsty, everyone keeps telling us how brilliant our Instagram is. They want to know who's doing it. So that for me was a really, really, really important, terrifying first step to get that first client.
Here's what I love about that. You didn't try and spread yourself too thin and do like 6 different accounts. What was important is you knew what you wanted to work in. You knew what industry, and this is a mistake I see a lot of people make when they get into social media management. They'll take whatever social media account is out there and they'll go super low on their price just to get that first client. And I think it's so important to do that, to step back and do the work and say, what do I love? What industry do I love? What industry do I have knowledge in?
Yes.
Where can I bring value? And, like you said as well, you went deep on one network. You didn't go on, you learned all of them and you decided, okay, this is the one that fits the best with the niche that I want to work in. And then you went all in on one account and did such a brilliant job on that then that led to more opportunities because they loved you so much. I think there's a huge lesson in that, especially for people who are aspiring to become social media managers or to work in social media.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think the hard thing is, as you become more successful, is there's a lot of business coming in. So that's what I found, is that now once you get a reputation, is word of mouth is so powerful, especially in interiors and property and gardens. It's quite a small space and everybody sort of knows each other. So the big challenge for me has been working out now how many clients can I manage, and what kind of clients do I want to work with, so that.
But you also have the luxury of being able to raise your prices.
Yes.
Because you're becoming more wanted and you have less time. And that's another step that a lot of women don't make. Then they just take on more and more and more and more. And then the work actually starts to decrease because they're not saying no and they're not increasing their prices.
Totally. And the other thing, Joy, that I did was, there's a couple of different things. So while I was starting to work for this first client, I then started to build my platform, so my Instagram account. So my Instagram account, I didn't really know what I was doing at the beginning, even though I knew what I was doing. And so I was posting a whole lot of pictures of nice interiors, and gradually I remember I had to sit down and talk to myself and say, hang on, treat my own account like a client. And I was like, what are you doing? Interiors people don't want to see pictures of interiors. They want tips on how to do Instagram better. So I literally gave myself a big talking to and changed my whole approach on my Instagram account overnight and started sharing educational content. So like tips of if you're going to do talking stories, or if you want to do a carousel, how to do it.
But here's what I love about what you did, because one of my favorite things is when you do your favorite reels in the interior space.
Yeah.
So you also started highlighting people who were doing it well in that space. And actually that's huge, because that's networking. It's also you're learning, because you're going and finding the people that are doing it really well. And then you're not just like giving tips to everybody and anybody who wants them. You do have kind of a focus on what you're giving people tips about.
Massively. So it's homes and gardens accounts. And then for me, a lot of it's about pushing yourself a bit out of your comfort zone. So doing things that we find quite scary. And, I started going live before Christmas, and it was had such a big impact on my account. And also I jumped on Reels, which launched in August last year, and got my head around them as fast as I could. And now I do a roundup every week. And exactly, because I watch a lot of Reels, I sort of know what works and doesn't. And becoming a bit of an expert in a particular area is really, really helpful, because people go, oh, you must go and talk to Kirsty about Reels. So I'm like, great, okay. So I think building my platform. So now I don't do any marketing anywhere apart from my Instagram profile. In fact, the only time I've done some actual selling where I kind of did some stories about what I do, that I've done that once in 9 months, and all my business comes through Instagram. And then for me, I think part of this process when we all start, right, is figuring out our business models. How are we going to work? So for me, I now have 3 retained clients that I look after. So they pay me a monthly retained fee, which is a really nice, solid, reliable income that I know that's coming in every month. And then on top of that, I do project work, which is doing training with people. So that, to me, that model works really well. And I think it's something that, well, I think it gives me the best of both worlds, because I really like the retained income, but I also love training people, and financially that's quite lucrative. So, and also you can dial it up and down. So like in the holidays, I don't do any training and I just have my retained clients. So it's a bit of trial and error, and I'm still figuring out, we're only 8-9 months in, what the exact perfect model is. But that's, to me, is what works really well for me.
Well, I love that. And also, this is part of that discovery, part of that journey. What do I want to do? How do I want to expand? Do I want to expand? Do I want to bring people on to work for me? Do I not want to bring people on to work for me?
Yeah.
And there's so many things to think about. But, I think one of the most important lessons here is that you just put yourself out there. You just did it. When you doing a live on Instagram for the first time, very, very scary. Yeah. Even if you've done it in the private Facebook group for TechPixies, going out into the real world and doing a live can be very scary, but you just do it. And not knowing how to do a reel and just figuring it out and then just doing it. I think one of the things I really pride myself on, if I'm going to go that braggadocious, but is just that I've always said TechPixies is about the foundations. So if we give people the foundations and they know how to fundamentally do the important things that they need to do on a baseline level, how to edit a bio, how to do a post, and click by click, step by step, right? Just removing any of that anxiety around doing something for the first time. Once people have got that base level knowledge and they've tried things out, that's when the magic happens, because it's that first hurdle that I find people struggle to get over, is that first hurdle of actually, how do I do it? And it was really funny because I have yet, and I really shouldn't admit this out loud as I own the company, but I have yet to do a reel myself. Like, I have social media managers who, Emma, who's amazing. She does our reels, and she does a brilliant job with them. And it was so funny because she was messaging me going, like, hey, Joy, can you just put together this quick reel? And I was like, Emma, you do realize, like, I have to go into the curriculum and find the video on how to do a reel in order to actually do that. Like, that's not my superpower. Neuro coaching is my superpower, and, social media is how I got there. But it's really funny. It's really funny to be in that kind of a situation and realize I now have to go learn from our coaches how to do things, because I don't,
I'll come and do a real session with you. It's all of these things, I think when you start out, you think, oh my God, everyone's an expert, everyone knows how to do everything. But like Reels launched last August and nobody knew how to do it or what to do. And I kind of think, just take the first step. The first step is so important. And when I first went live, I went live with a really brilliant, if anybody is on Instagram and wants to see a brilliant account using Instagram really well, there's a lovely lady called Andy who runs an account called Dahlia Beach, who has done a massive pivot in lockdown. She ran a wedding video business that went pear-shaped, obviously, and she has relaunched as a Dahlia farmer, and she's absolutely brilliant. Anyway, she sort of said to me, can you just come live with me tomorrow? And I went, oh God. And she didn't give me any notice. She didn't tell me what it was going to be about or anything. And I think for 24 hours felt sick. And the minute I started, it was absolutely fine. And, I loved it now. And doing lives on Instagram has been a huge, huge bonus for my account. It's helped me grow, get more presence. But I think that when you haven't done that stuff, you're like, it's really scary. I can't do it. Everybody knows what they're doing, and none of us do. We're just going for it. So Yeah, I think go for it. And I did a challenge last week. I don't know if you saw it, but it was a
Oh,
talking.
yes, I've loved watching it. A bunch of
Yeah.
TechPixies got involved in it. It's been
Oh my
great.
Yeah, they were brilliant. So if anybody didn't see it, it was a challenge to get people to talk on their stories, because I think lots of people use stories, but sometimes are scared to kind of do the chatting because it feels weird. So I did a prompt for 5 days, and I honestly, Joy, at the beginning, I thought maybe like 5 or 10 people would do it. I was like, oh, let's do a talking story challenge. And then, I mean, I practically burst into tears the next day, because over 100 women just and 2 men just started, they were tagging me on their stories, and it was all these people, and the same words kept cropping up, which were, I'm so scared, I was really embarrassed, I was really worried, I didn't think I could do this, oh god, I find this really, I'm out of my comfort zone. And by the Friday, these incredible women had huge results on their Instagram, they were getting engagement, new followers, and they were just like, oh my god, this is so brilliant, I'm really glad I did it. And that's the bit I love about all of this, is people, particularly women, I think we get to a stage where we just not sure we can do new stuff, and it's really invigorating to do it.
Well, here's what I hear when you say that. Empowered women empower women.
Yeah.
You know, I think what is so beautiful about our community and what I'm starting to see happen is that when women's lives transform through our 90-day transformational program, which they do transform, they then take what that transformation, and because they've now got visibility and they've now got a voice and they don't have fear, they then project that out. And
Yeah.
we are seeing these pockets of people who are following them. It's really transforming, you know, their mindset as well. So, you know, to me, it's really special to see the, you know, I mean, someone once said, like, how did you come up with the name TechPixies? And I don't really have a great story. Well, it was Theresa May who asked me that question, actually. That's the best part of the story. The Prime Minister asked me how I came up with the name. And I looked at her and I kind of said, well, all I can tell you is I locked myself in the box room, which is now a bathroom in our house. But I locked myself in the box room. And I said, and we don't have box rooms in America. So if anyone's listening, my mom listens in America. So just a box room is like a storage room. So I locked myself in the box room, and I took up a piece of paper, and I just remember like writing all sorts of different names. And, you know, I didn't want it to be just for moms. I wanted it to be for women.
Yeah.
And I was, and then I, you know, and so and then I didn't want it to be about marketing, because that wasn't, for me, that wasn't the issue. It wasn't marketing. And that's where I thought, well, what's the big problem here? And it's tech. You know, women are behind in tech. And so I looked at there were a lot of like tech moms already existed. And of course, then I didn't want moms, and then I didn't want tech women. And there was so much. And also I didn't want to cut off the possibility of working with men by having the word women in there. We just focus on women. Anyway, long story short, the thing that came back to me was pixie dust. You know, pixie dust, this concept of, you know, like Tinkerbell. And you know how she just yeah. And I mean, she was a little bit ornery, Tinkerbell, but I think, you know, you just think about that. It's like giving someone wings and getting them to fly. That's the way I kind of looked at it.
Yeah.
And that's where the two kind of came together.
I totally agree. I mean, it's really nice to do this, actually, because sometimes you have to stop and look up and realize how far you've come. And sitting and talking to you makes me remember the person I was back in April, sitting in that other end of the sitting room going, Joy, I don't think I can do this. I don't know how to do it. And I remember we even talked about Facebook ads. Do you remember? And you were like, oh, you need to get me to do Facebook ads. And I literally was like, what's this witchcraft? I don't know what Facebook ads. I was like, I'll never know this. And now I'm like, okay, Facebook ads. Yeah, no problem. You know, and I know a brilliant person that does that. And, you know, so I think that kind of transformation, you know, these words get bandied around a lot, but it really was a transformation for me. If I look to where I was a year ago, it's a completely different place. You know, I've now, you know, 5 days a week, I'm running around going to client meetings. Yesterday, I spent doing photo shoots, meeting with clients, networking. After this, I'm going to meet 2 brilliant women who are starting a brand new fashion business on Instagram. I'm going to talk to them. It's just, my life has completely changed. And, you know, I don't say this lightly. TechPixies did it. So it's been amazing.
Well, I always say you did the work because not everyone does the work. Although it is interesting, we've just been looking into the data and digging the data. And for example, with our boot camp that we just launched, the social media superhero boot camp,
Yeah.
there was a certain number of women who started the program, and it's like a 96% completion rate, right?
Wow.
And in online courses, to have that kind of a completion rate is huge. And we also in our program we make sure we have incentives for people to complete. So at the moment, one of the incentives is these beautiful mugs from Just Gift Me Your Cup of Courage. And so what we've been saying to people is, get your CPD finished, get to the end and fill out the survey. And once you've done that, you qualify for your mug. And that's been huge for getting people across the finish line. And it's so funny because it's a simple mug, but it's something special, and it's something that's unique, and it's something that's personalized. And I think what I've learned, and you want to get someone started, but you also want to get someone to the finish line. You want to have them have the full experience and the full transformation. And we used to say week 6, it was magic week 6, and which I still think it is. I think if someone gets to 6 weeks, they will feel that magic. So it's so much fun to have you here. It's wonderful to get to interview you. I guess what I would say, or what I would like to ask you is, this is going into our clarity series. We're doing a series on clarity, and then we're doing a series on financial independence afterwards. So this is actually quite a good one because it kind of bridges both of those gaps, because you are now financially independent.
Yep.
Which is a big deal.
It's really big deal. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think people realize what a big deal being financially independent is.
It's massive. It's massive. I have a separate bank account now that's just work money. And it's really exciting. It's really exciting. It's really, and I think one of the things that I've learned is to try and reward yourself a bit as you go along. Because I think if you just keep working and don't look up, you have to just give yourself a few little rewards along the way just to keep you going, because that's good.
So tell us a few of the rewards that you've given yourself.
Ooh, look, this is a new one. So look, I just got this £25 from eBay. This was my reward for, I kind of really pushed hard at the beginning of this year and did so much training, and it's quite relentless. So yes, a coat. I like clothes.
So you set a goal for the year, and for your financial goal, and you achieved it in how many months?
7 months. So
7 months. So you set a 12-month goal.
Yeah.
You set a 12-month goal, but you achieved it in 7.
12 months, and I did it in 7, and I didn't expect it. When the finance guy that I sat down with beforehand, he said to me at about 6 months, he said, "Kirsty, how's it going?" I was like, "Yeah, it's great. And you know what? It was really good," because he said, "Send me your spreadsheets." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, my spreadsheets." Okay. I was like, quickly put my spreadsheet together of my income and expenses. And I was like, holy moly, look what this is. My run rate now per month is where I wanted to be at 12 months, and I'm here. So that's a massive reward, because the first year is relentless. I'd say to people, it is, it's head down, and you've got to, you push, right? Because every opportunity that comes your way, you grab it. So now for me is figuring out, okay, what's my best way for my time, because I still want to spend time with my children and on the holidays. How do I do that? What's the fine tuning? And I knew the first 12 months would be pretty brutal, because I think anybody starting a business, you want to go for it. But now I've got, collaborating has been one of my best things. I found there were 3 particular TechPixies who are my life, who we have a WhatsApp and we speak every day, and have done through the course and afterwards. And they're such a brilliant, it's like, oh God, this client wants me to do this. What do you think? Every day we're speaking to each other. So that has been amazing. But also I've met lots of other people who do what I do, who are so generous in what they do. And, if a client comes in and it doesn't work for me, then I'll pass it over to them. And they've been, some people, quite big accounts, have really, really bigged me up and supported me, and have gone out and said to people, I get people all the time going, "Oh, hi, so-and-so sent me because they said you're really good on Reels," or "So-and-so sent me because you're really good in homes and gardens." And that's just the nicest feeling, because, you're getting supported by other people. So yeah, that's, to me, the kind of collaboration. I think people think sometimes we're all in competition with each other. We're not. It's when you support each other, it's amazing. That's been one of my best bits. Yeah.
I love that. And when it comes to clarity, what advice can you give people in terms of niching down and also deciding which networks to specialize in and focus on?
Okay, yeah, I don't think you can ever niche too much. That's what I've learned, is that I think people are like, oh God, I can't niche just into Instagram, because what if somebody comes to me and wants Facebook and Pinterest? You don't, if for example, you broke your leg, right? Or you wouldn't go to a general GP and say, can you fix me? You would go to a man that looks after broken legs, right? So you go to an expert because you feel trusted in the hands of somebody who knows exactly what they're doing. So I think, number one, just niche away as much as you can, because it means in the course of what I'm doing for my clients, I'm learning every day. I'm learning about the influencers, I'm learning about what the trends in the sector are, so that I'm in a position to give more knowledge. So number one, niche, niche, niche. Number two, build your profile. I think, my Instagram account is all my marketing and everything. So
but it's interesting too on this, you were saying earlier, and so I don't mean to cut you off, but I think this is important on the clarity side. You got clear on what you wanted to use your Instagram account for and who you were speaking to. That was a big piece of your clarity.
Joy, that was so important. And it very quickly, I started getting messages going, oh my God, this is exactly what's going on in my head right now. Or, I do a post about feeling overwhelmed. I just literally, my DMs would go berserk with people going, oh my God, how do you know what's going on in my head? And that's when I knew that I had kind of got an understanding of what my potential clients were feeling. And I did there's one, I can't know if you've seen it, where I sort of point at there's lots of pointing reels, but this one was like, the 1 million different tips you get for how to succeed on Instagram. And it was like, oh, are you feeling overwhelmed by Instagram? Come and follow for, advice that works. And that had 58,000 views in about 2 weeks. And I put on 1,000 followers, and all the messages were like, oh my God, Kirsty, I just saw this on the Explore page on Instagram. And it was like, that's me. So yeah, if you really, really, really spend time thinking about what your clients, what their pain points are, that's once, and when you've got it right, because those are the kind of messages you can't start seeing.
Yeah, I think that message where people go, you're in my head, or that's exactly what I was thinking. It's so, because and it's interesting because we started kind of focusing on, in our messaging, we changed our messaging to be less about returning to work change, leveraging social media to return to work, change careers, and start a business. And we started really leaning in the last couple months on this message of the transformation from a tech dinosaur to a social media superhero. And it's really interesting because we also used social media imposter for a while, but the one that resonated the most with people coming into our program was tech dinosaur. And it's that idea that tech has passed you by. And to me, what I find really interesting is social media is a perfect entry point to all the other pieces of technology. And if you're confident with social media, and you're confident in your skin, and you're confident being visible, and you're confident, like you said, connecting and going live, and everything else falls into place after that. And, if you're scared to do those things, then you're going to hold yourself back for as long as you are unwilling to, get out of your comfort zone and learn something new.
I totally agree, Joy, because unless you feel confident in like pressing the buttons and what to press and how to do it, right, you can't do the next step, which is coming on here and going, hi, I'm here, I want to help. If you've got that basic tech knowledge behind you, that's the sort of, once you've got that, it's like learning to drive a bit, isn't it? Once you've got that, you don't have to think about it too much, because you're just doing what you're doing in your job, whatever it is. But until, when you first step in a car to learn to drive, it's really scary. And you're like, I don't have a clue how to do this. And then it becomes second nature. And that's, I think, the journey that you go on. So we're just all driving around in our Ferraris now.
So tell me what it looks like. What's Kirsty's life look like in 10 years?
Oh, that's a good one. 10 years time. Well, I'm going to be 50 this Christmas. So in 10 years' time, I'll be 60. I hope I am still wearing leopard skin and still, warbling around on Instagram. I'd love to do this for the next 10 years. I mean, I absolutely love it. I would like I would like to go more into strategy. So helping, rather than doing the daily, posting for people and doing all that kind of sort of management, I would like to get more into going in and working with clients on a strategy basis. That's where I can see that's where I'd like to go. Financially, that would make the returns would be higher that way around. So yeah, that's where I'd like to be, and still making reels and still, that's where I'd like to be.
That's very exciting. And I love to always ask that question because, here's the other thing too. I think about, you started this journey a year ago. Yes. And you know where you are now, and you know where you want to be 10 years from now. What would be different if you had decided to wait a year? And what if you were starting your journey now?
I think, there's never a good time to start, right? There's always a reason not to do it. Like last year, we all started in lockdown and it was like, can I do this? I'm homeschooling. I've got 2 kids at home. I'm doing it on my own. It was a real juggle. So I think, never just go, I'll just wait a bit, just go start now, right? And I'm so relieved. If I hadn't started, I think I would have I've had a thought about this, a really different lockdown experience. I would have been lovely, I would have been with my kids, but instead through lockdown has been a complete transformation for me. I've got a thriving business that I love and I'm really excited about. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what I would be doing.
But it's really interesting because, I think for women who have children, lockdown was actually way harder in terms of, a lot of people thought, oh, well, I'll just go learn a new skill but actually if you had children at home, that's what your focus was on. And it became very difficult to do almost anything else because it was 24/7. Yeah. I remember feeling like it was going back to the baby days, when they're literally on your hip at all times or in your arms at all times. And I mean, I think, for some women, it was very difficult. But what I find interesting is here you are, a single mom, you still have a child at home, 2 children at home doing homeschooling, and you actually were able to take that scenario and still not only launch but build a successful business. I mean, I think that it just goes to show that the same 2 people can have completely different viewpoints about how to tackle a scenario. And I love that your mindset was, I'm going to just go ahead and do this anyway and move forward on it.
And Jo, I think funnily enough, maybe lockdown made it a bit easier because some of those fears which you have, which are a bit around what people are going to say and what your friends are going to say, which makes you feel a bit nervous about something. In lockdown, we were slightly in a bubble and isolated from it. When I first saw people after about 7 or 8 months after we'd locked down, they were like, God, Kirsty, you've been busy. I was like, yeah. And I was a bit like, oh, have you seen what I'm doing? And they're like, yeah, it's amazing. So that's, I think in some ways lockdown helped me. I just was like, I'm just going to do it, but the juggle is, I would say to anybody that's just starting, the juggle is really real. For me, it's a lot of, finishing my work at sort of, 3 or 4 o'clock when Rafi comes home, and then I start again at 8 o'clock and work to midnight. So it's, you find ways to work around it. But then, for me, freelancing is a joy because in the morning I get to go and run or go for a bike ride with the dog. I get, I choose my hours that work for me, and I'm annoyingly super creative between about 10 and about 2 in the morning.
Yeah, I know that.
And I'm like, oh my God, I can take over the world in the next 3 hours. I'm literally, it just goes, Aah. And so actually my brother, he's freelance graphic designer. He said to me, Kirsty, just give yourself a break, right? If you're going to work those hours, say to yourself, okay, in the morning till 11 o'clock, that's your time. And go and walk the dog and run and do that things. And don't beat yourself up for staying up. If that's when you work there and make it, So
No, that's a really good point. And I think, there people do have rhythms that they do things in. Sometimes it's habit, sometimes it's rhythm, but it is interesting. And before we went live, I was talking to you about my hours and how I've changed my hours. So, for those of you who don't know some of the inside scoop on TechPixies, okay, I own it, but I also have a contract and I have like hours that I'm supposed to be doing. So I'm contracted at TechPixies to do 175 hours a month. And we've always tracked hours for everyone in the team, including myself. And I was doing way more than that. I was doing 274 or something like that. And basically what we worked out was that it was about a 75-hour week every week for months. I mean, this isn't like, just, okay, let's do it for a busy period. It was like that for a very long time. And Carla and Pip both came onto the leadership team to really relieve me of a lot of the time that I was doing stuff. And so I set this goal. Okay, I want to do 255 hours. Like it felt like a lot to chuck 20 hours off my schedule. And I successfully did that the last 2 months. And then I was saying to you, well, why didn't I make it, 220 hours? But I think it just goes to show that, and I've got like I've got a little board to the side of my computer that has all these little sayings on it. And this one says, you can't improve what you don't measure, And so I think, I think it is about finding the rhythm that works for you, being aware of what's taking your time, and I was able to get 20 hours a month back, which is 5 hours a week back. And, I'm working to get even more back by bringing in the right people and by cutting things out of my schedule, by saying no to things. And, like I love Marie Forleo. She says, get on the no train.
Do you know, and it's really scary, I think, when you start, particularly for me, when I started, clients coming in, when I said no to my first client, I was like, oh God, what's going to happen now? They're all going to leave me. And, but I had a feeling it wasn't right. And we were talking before, weren't we, about, my background was working in an agency where we had a roster of clients and they would pay us a fee and we had to keep timesheets to make sure that we weren't what we called over-servicing. So, if we did 400 hours on a particular client, but they were only paying us a certain fee, it became, financially didn't make sense. So I have that ringing in my ears now that you can spend hours on social media creating stuff for people, and I'm getting better. You get faster. When I first left TechPixies, I was, it would take me a long time to do stuff. So you get quicker and quicker. But I think a really good tip is just to say to people, set yourself a deadline. You guys are really good on that. I'm a sucker for a deadline. I leave things until the last minute, but set yourself that deadline and don't, your time is really, really your most precious thing in the world. So use it really, really sensibly.
What's that concept that your work will expand to fill the time that you give it? Totally. And I had a coach. I was when I was writing Social Media Success, the second book. So the first book I wrote, no one ever read, but it was called the Social Entrepreneur's Guide to the Digital Galaxy. And it was a book for social entrepreneurs about like how you get yourself up and running, website, email marketing, social media, all that stuff. Yeah, and it took me 65 hours to write. And we never got it to print. It just went on to these little sand disk, the little so yeah. So I think I finished it at like 6 o'clock in the morning. And then I had like a book launch event at 9 o'clock in the morning. And I was back in the days when it was like me and one other person in the business. And I had to go over to the coffee shop because it was, the local MP was coming to the book launch and it was social Saturday. And my kids had gone to Legoland with my husband. I didn't even get to go to Legoland because I was launching this book. And I go to pick up the coffee. And I'm walking I'm late now because I'm frazzled, and then the coffee people forgot they were supposed to prepare the coffee. So I'm walking into this thing. The MP's already there. I'm like the person who wrote the book, and here I am showing up with the croissants and the coffee, and the glass falls and shatters everywhere. Where the thing we're supposed to make the coffee in shatters everywhere as I'm walking in. And I just thought, oh my gosh, this is like, so anyway, when we gave out, we had 100 books to give away with these little digital sticks. And we did give them away. I'm sure no one read the book.
Oh.
But it was, a part of that is that process. So then when I wrote Social Media Success, I was working with well, she doesn't call herself a time management coach. I call her a time management coach. She calls herself a productivity coach. But Neil Williams, who has a great podcast called the Unbusy Your Life podcast, which is absolutely brilliant for anyone who wants to get some control over their time management like I did and do. And so anyway, she said to me, Joy, you just tell your brain how many hours you want to give it to write the book.
Yeah.
And that's when you'll write the book. And I was like, you're kidding me. I was like, it took me 65 hours to write it last time. She's like, well, how long do you want to take it this time? And I said, I've only got about 22 hours. And she said, well, give yourself 22 hours. Because I looked at my schedule. She's really good at like saying, okay, look at your schedule, plan everything in.
I love that.
So I said, I've only got 22 hours. And she said, right, well, that's how much time you've got. So you have to write this book in 22 hours.
What's the name, Joy? What was the name? I'm going to write it down.
Neil Williams, Neill Williams. And then she's, and I worked with her one-on-one for 3 months because it was just unwieldy, my schedule. And she was great. She taught me how to batch my days. So I have days where I do meetings all day. And then I have days where I do no meetings whatsoever. And I just have deep work time and undisturbed time to do the stuff that I need to do for the business and for my brain and all that other stuff. But anyway, so I wrote Social Media Success in 21 hours.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
You were allowed to sleep in the middle of it or not?
Yeah, no, I did. It was, I know, but it was like, I think I did something like 7 3-hour chunks and just got it done. Right. And
great. A deadline. And, if you're a person that works for deadline, some people aren't. Some people are really good planners, aren't they? They can get everything done way in advance. I'm not. I know that. So I have to set myself these artificial deadlines together. I think as mums, that is, we just don't realize how valuable our time is, and how precious it is. And that's our whole resource, and, you go, okay, well, I'm going to be a social media manager because I don't have any overheads. I work from home. I've just got a phone. That's it. But your cost is your time away from your children, your time, not doing things that, you want to do. So value it. I think that's the most,
Well, and that's one of the things she says. She says that if you're breaking promises to yourself all the time, exactly. What is that doing for you? How is that serving you? One thing that you mentioned, which was great, was you said, when I first started out, things took me a long time and now they take me less time. Now, here's the thing that I want people to hear. And you figured this out, but I want to make sure people who are listening to this, who are thinking, I want to go into social media management. If something took you 5 hours to do when you first started out, and now you can do it in 1 hour, guess what, folks? You do not charge 1 hour's time for what took you 5 hours. Okay. This is so important because I remember when I was in the website development space, and once we refined our systems, we could build a website in way fewer hours than we initially could. But actually, we kept the prices at the same. We kept, just because we could build a website in 50% of the time it took us initially, meant that we had better systems and we could charge more even for the better system. There's a great meme that we've seen, and it just dropped into the Facebook group, which is about this patio, and or a veranda that someone wants to have built at their house, and they don't want to spend the money to actually do it. And the carpenter says, okay, well, no problem. I'll teach you how to do it, and you can just pay me and it'll be half the rate. And then he starts talking about, well, I'll be here at 6 a.m. And he goes, well, I don't start work till 8 a.m. And he says, well, I start at 6 because I've got to go to the, to get the materials. And then he said, and okay, you're going to need a saw, and you're going to need a hammer, and you're going to need, and all this specialized equipment. And he said, well, I don't have that. And he said, okay, well, I'll rent it to you so you don't have to buy it. And at the end of the day, the guy was like, no, actually, I just want you to build it. But I think people don't really understand that what you're doing is you're not doing social media for them. You're solving a time problem for them, right? Yeah. You're solving a creativity problem for them. Yeah. The wonderful, wonderful social media managers at TechPixies, Emily Thum and Angie Hiscott, and Pip Isles, and I know she's got some volunteers working with her as well. But the team of people that run our social media, what they're giving me is time. I don't have to stay up till 2 a.m. anymore doing that stuff because I can go to bed, and that's the gift they're giving me. And they're doing a brilliant job, and they're doing a better job than I would ever do now. I mean, I would be a terrible social media manager now, but it's wonderful to have people who've got your back and who give you time back. And that's what people have to remember when they're working with someone. What are they really giving that person? What's the gift that they're giving them?
Yes, and I think that quite often as you get quicker and stuff, you're right, you kind of go, okay, I can do that. Now I can do that. I can do that. But if I think about what I do for my clients, so I'm going out and taking photographs. So I'm acting as a photographer. I'm styling shoots. If we've got some property people, then I'm setting up the styling. Then I'm creating the content on Canva or whatever apps I'm using. So I'm doing an element of graphic design. And then the strategy, so coming up with a content strategy for them. So that's thinking about what their sales targets are and who their audience are. So there's a whole lot of marketing in there. So you're, and that's just to start off with. So you're doing all these as a social media manager. I think you have like 10 different hats that you wear. And, I think when you first start with clients, they're like, oh, you're just going to post some pictures for me, and I think a lot of it is about, with my clients, has been educating. They're like, God, I didn't realize you do this and you do this and you do this. And remember that when you go to price what you're going to be doing for people, because there is nothing worse than underpricing and then getting really miserable because you're putting in all these hours and not getting recompense for it. So, I think a social media manager wears lots of hats, and they're all really valuable. So get paid.
Well, this was a very valuable conversation, and I know a lot of women are going to benefit from listening to this. And as you can tell, we've had a lot of ladies in the community who totally love you, and they've shown up. So I'm just going to take a minute now to acknowledge them and bring up some of their comments, because they've been really, really beautiful. Nicola says, brilliant and inspiring. Newbie here. How quickly did you get your first client from doing the course? That's a great question.
Yeah. So Nicola, I got it like 3 weeks in, it was, it was an opportunity that came across, and I was absolutely terrified. And I just literally in a conversation said, I think we said at the beginning, that I just said to a client, can I do an audit for you? And out of that came this. So if you
said three weeks in.
Yeah, 3 weeks in. Yeah. When I'm not even sure if we'd done Instagram yet by then. I think we were.
Instagram. Well, yeah, because you were on the old system.
Yeah.
So what we've done is the Social Media Superhero Bootcamp is actually, we've pulled out the first 2 weeks, and that's what you do in the Superhero Bootcamp. So now when people join the course, they go straight into Instagram. But you're right. We would have been.
I don't think I'd done Instagram. I think I didn't yet have Sophie or Beth telling me all the brilliant stuff. So I was really like terrified. But if you get an opportunity, sometimes it's really useful, I think, just to sit down with a bit of paper and look at your network, okay? And you won't realize how many people there are in your life that potentially could be sources of business for you. So for me, I'd worked with this building company, and I knew it was the right sector, so I just kind of went for it. And if they say no, they say no. You ask somebody else, But not many people will say no to a free audit. You're like, can I come and tell you?
But what's important is you did an audit in an industry that you knew you loved and you had experience in, and that you wanted to work in. And I think that's what's important, is not to just do random audits for anyone.
No, I totally agree. So I knew that's the space I wanted to be in, and I understood it already, having, kind of done 2 big renovations. So but I just think, just sit down and work out who you know, and don't be scared. Everybody wants to help each other, So, if there are people that within your family or friends that it's a space that you think you could work in, then just go for it.
Yeah. And Nicola, I'm just going to tap in here for a second. An audit is when you review someone's account and kind of say, here's what you're doing well, here's where you can improve, here's what's not working at all. And in our Social Media Magic toolkit, we now have a very fantastic audit tool that we've developed within Google Sheets that will actually, you input the information, and it creates these beautiful graphics that show you whether or not an account is on track or not on track, and what areas that it needs improvement on. So I want to thank Carla for developing that. It was an idea that has been in our heads for a while, and we were able to actually get it to work and look really good. So we already have the tools in the Social Media Magic program, which is in the strategy section. So just in case you're looking for that and you're already in the program. So another question's coming in from Vicky, which is, when you got your client, were you already set up with a website, business Instagram, etc.? I know the answer to this.
No, nothing. I've got nothing. And I still don't have a website, Joy. I mean, I can't, I'm full. My training is booked through to the end of June. So people wanting to come training, I can't do anything till July now. So, and I'm full on clients. So I'm full, but I don't even have a website yet. So no, just go for it. So I think I started my Instagram account the same time I started working for the clients. We both launched in June last year. So, there are so many reasons to not start. Just do it, and just go for it. I think it is, particularly if you're going to specialize in Instagram, building a presence there is really important. But don't let it hold you back before you start.
Yeah, I agree with that. And we know that there's some people in our community that are looking to kind of create a how to build a website really quickly thing. And we used to actually teach that at TechPixies. We used to have a website in a day course that we would do, and it was a great course. We pulled it mostly because the person that was running it had moved on from the company, and I didn't feel like I had the desire to go deeper on the developer skills to keep it going. But what we found was we didn't need to keep running that course anyway, because this goes back to that concept that once someone has the fundamentals and they've got their confidence, they go and figure it out. They go and find out how to build a one-page website. And, there's so many great tools out there and so many great tutorials out there that it is totally possible to do. Yeah. And it's just, you have to say, do I need a website? Do I not need a website? And in Kirsty's situation, she didn't need a website because she's got all the business that she needs right now.
Yeah, and I did I put some landing pages. There's an app called Milkshake that does some landing pages that you can have, which you can put a link in your bio in your Instagram, and it's 4 pages that says what I do, and that's it. And the next step is a website and an email and all that stuff. But at the moment, I was like, well, I actually can't take any more business on at the moment. So let's just do that for the time being. So.
Oh, I love that. That's a great top tip. Well, I think we'll close on that because I know you've got to go, but I've taken a whole hour of your time, but to be honest, this was such a rich hour. There's so much information in here, and your story is one I've been wanting to share for such a long time. So thank you for coming on. Thank you for being so open, and, thank you for being a wonderful member of our community.
My pleasure, Joy. Thank you for everything. Wouldn't be here without you guys. Amazing.
Well, have a great rest of your day.
Take care.